Hello, everyone, and welcome to the library. Thank you all for being here this evening on this Friday the 13th. So let's get the show on the road. All right. Welcome, everyone. On this December 13th, 2024. There we go. There's me and there's Lenny. And as you can see, Lenny is in the Christmas spirit. Right, Len? With his Santa hat on. He's very jolly this evening. And before we get started, we're going to light our candles as always, because we cannot have a ghost story without candlelight. Now, tonight's stories are going to be interesting from a historical standpoint. They are the oldest that I could find ghost stories on record in the Western world. They're from England. And I'm going to give you a little background on that. Let's shut this light off. There we go. Give a little background before we get into that. And then I have a few, I think I have 3 paranormal videos I'd like to play for you and get your insight. So here we go. Let me just start by saying hello. Hello, Suzanne. Good to see you. Seymour Saganetti. I haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you, my friend. Cranky is here. How are you? Arlene Merlino. Tony the Night Owl is in attendance. I see. Wait, is Gerard here? Yes, Gerard is here. Great to see you. John Paul Bacon. Nice to see you. Stony Tony here. Stiggs, of course, is here. Emmanuel Spatato. Noel from Florida checking in. Bill C is here. Deborah Roberts is here. Baywatcher is here. Nice crowd this evening. Thank you so much for joining me here in the library. And Victor's back there. I forgot to talk about Victor's back there. He's back there. He's always here. He's lurking. He's the lurker of the group, hanging in the background. But tonight's ghost stories, like I said, are some of the oldest on record that were actually written down in a manuscript. And these were written down by a monk in the late 1300, very late 1300s. like the 1390s. And this monk lived in a place called Abland Abbey. Or, I'm sorry, Byland Abbey. And I'm going to show you what that place looked like. It's in northern England, and it is a ruin now, but it was first established in the year 1135. Can you imagine how long ago that was? A tremendous amount of time has passed. 1135, I'm sorry, 1135. And it was at its height in around the time these ghost stories were codified, put down on paper. And the story goes, or the background is that this monk gathered these stories from the local areas of northern England around the abbey itself. Now, if you're not familiar with the concept of an abbey, in medieval times, abbeys were established by the church as centers of culture, centers of obviously religion, centers of prayer and production of things too for the community, like food. Many of them were farms. Many of them, this one in particular, used to raise sheep and create clothing out of wool. So they had a real significant impact in the church, because basically after the fall of the Roman Empire, the church becomes the de facto government in Europe. There's nothing else at first. So the church is still there. The church becomes one and the same as government. The Roman government is collapsed, and all we have is the church. So the church takes on these secular roles for the people, not just with the spirit, but also for keeping them, trying to keep them alive, I guess, in handing out food, providing food, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the background for it. Hello, Osada. Hello, Surviving Together. Good to see you, Surviving. All right. So now, this manuscript, like I said, was written around 1399 or around the year 1400, and it contains 12 ghost stories. I'm not going to go through all 12 of them, but I'm going to go through, I think, 7 of them, which I thought were worth covering. Now, before I do that, let me show you what I'm talking about in terms of the location. So let me share my screen and show you where Byland Abbey is located. All right, let's start with a map. Here we go. Now, as you can see in the map, this is England. To the lower right-hand corner is England, and the red section over here is what is encompassed up here. And Byland Abbey is located right over here, where I don't know if you can see my cursor, but it's right over here in this area around here. So it's northern Italy on the verge of Scotland. I'm sorry, excuse me, northern England on the verge of Scotland. And because of that, not far from Hadrian's Wall, which the Romans built to keep out the Scots when they controlled England. And because of that, it was raided by the Scots on several occasions. And eventually it gets to the point where, it collapses. It collapses in the in the 1500s, early 1500s, it's abandoned. And over the years, nothing's left but ruin. So let me show you what it looks like now. Obviously, there were no pictures of what it looked like in its heyday, but we have pictures of what it looks like presently, which I think is pretty cool when you look at it. So here we go. Let me get to sharing this one. All right. Where is the Abbey pictures? Here we go. Here they come. All right. Now, here's the first one. As you can see, this is the church, the ruins of the church itself. Now, it said in its heyday, it was one of the top churches, or one of the major churches in England. So you could see there's not much left. Most of it has crumbled, but it was an amazing structure in its day. So here's what it looks like now. This is the ruins of the church. You can see it, very, very medieval looking. That's one picture. Now let me show you. I have a couple more. Here's another angle of it. And as you can see, the ruins of these walls, like I said, the abbey encompassed quite a bit of land. So different things were happening. This was the church itself, but then in these walls kind of carved off different parts of buildings that were attached to the abbey, and then areas where the sheep were kept, and areas where the wool was brought together and clothing was made. So a lot of activity that would happen on these premises. It was like a little city or a little town in the middle of darkness. The medieval times was darkness, and the church was the answer to that, or tried to be the answer to that, without the absence of government. So here we go. That was that one. And let me go to I have one more picture that I want to show. Here, this picture I want to show you, because this shows you an aerial view of it that kind of demonstrates how big it was, or the various parts of it. So take a look at this. This is an aerial view of the Byland Abbey, and as you can see, over here is the church, and then here are these courtyards where there were buildings, like the foundations of prior buildings, and then ultimately around it was a wall. You could see that because it had to defend itself, or at least try to defend itself from raiders. So quite a beautiful type of setup that from antiquity here. So pretty cool setting for this, where these ghost stories were put down on paper. All right, let's stop sharing that. Okay, now the stories themselves are quite different than you would normally see in modern times. The stories that I usually tell, which are ghost stories of legends that are still around in the United States, what have you. You'll see a pattern in these stories. They all seem to have similar. Where's the light? There it is. It's a similar pattern to them. And what is it? I don't know what that means, other than that was what the beliefs were at that times about interaction with spirits. So a couple of things you'll see. It's usually a restless spirit that is trying to make contact with the living. Now, most of them are not malevolent. Most of them are looking for help from the living. They're reaching out. They are stuck, and they're reaching out to try to get help from the living to move on. So they're kind of victims, these spirits in these stories, which is a change. They're not there to scare you. They may scare people at first, but the scaring is really to awaken the people, to help them, because they need the help of the living to move on. So you'll see that as a pattern as I talk about these stories. Usually they have sins that they're holding or carrying with them that they have to try to remedy. That's a big part of these stories, is that these sins, they're trying to get rid of these sins so they can move on to heaven. So and because of that, I like this. This is these stories are kind of akin to A Christmas Carol by Dickens, where Jacob Marley is trying to atone for the sins that he did by helping his friend avoid his predicament. So he's a spirit reaching out to try to help the living, and in return, he will hopefully get help, and he won't have to walk the earth forever. So it's really, from my angle, I like this much better than the ghosts that are out to terrorize you. And probably those ghosts are not ghosts at all. They're more like demons, or things from the nether region. Like they're evil spirits. They're not people. They're not people that had perished and that are looking for a way out. So just keep that in mind as I go through these. Hey, Slim. Good to see you, Slim. I don't know if anyone else came in. I don't want to miss anyone. Just in case, let me look real quick. I don't want to miss anyone that's here if they came in. Kathy Mardis, how are you? Good to see you. Who else? Did I miss anyone else? I hope not. I do not want to miss anyone. Joe Town, just chilling, checking in from the West Coast. Great to see you, my buddy. Let's say anyone else here. I think I hit everybody. If I did, I apologize. I want to make sure I say hello to you. If I missed you, just make another comment and I will catch up with you. No, I will see you. Carmela, good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. Nice to see you in the chat. Okay, so let's talk about our stories. The first one is about an individual by the name of William D. Bradforth, and it's actually has a title to it. It's the Bradforth and the Shouting Spirit is the name of this tale. And as the tale goes, that over William de Bradford was traveling from one village to another in the vicinity of the Abbey when over 3 nights, and each night of travel, a spirit would follow him and yell and yell, and each night the yelling would get louder. So it would, and what was he yelling? He was yelling these 3 words: how, which is kind of mind-boggling to William, because why would a spirit be yelling how? And it was always in the darkest part of the night that this would happen, and each night it gets louder and louder. On the 4th night, when he's almost returned home, the cries got so loud and close that he decided to get up and try to investigate. In the previous nights, he kind of tried to ignore it and just tried to go to sleep because he wanted to travel, made sure he could travel the next day, tried to ignore it and went back to sleep. But in the 4th night, it was so loud and so close to him that he got up and tried to investigate. So he goes out into the darkness with a torch. Remember, it's the 12th century, so there's nothing going on. There's nothing there. There's no other means of light but a torch. He goes out into the darkness, and what does he see? He sees first, standing on the road, a crossroad near him, he sees a horse, a pale horse, a horse so pale it was white to the point that it was translucent. You could see through it. And he approaches the horse, and as he has his dog with him. I neglected to tell you, he travels with his dog, and his dog starts barking and whimpering at the sight of the horse, to the point that the dog runs with his tail between his legs and cowers underneath William's legs. And as he's doing this, William sees the horse transform into the spirit of a man, a form of a man, and it's a withering ghost, a ghost that looks like he's in pain, that he's hungry, that he is starving or hungry or withering away. And he confronts the spirit. And here's another part of these stories that you'll see. You'll see that there's a point where the human being that the ghost encounters does something called conjure the spirit. And what the conjuring of the spirit is we think of like a witch conjuring spirit, spells. But what is meant by this was conjuring the spirit was like calling out the name of God to try to raise the spirit to the point where he could communicate with him. And it was called conjuring the spirit. And you do this by saying the Lord's Prayer or doing something else, the sign of the cross or something, to make connection with the spirit, using the power of Jesus to do that. Right. So that's what conjuring was considered. So he conjures the spirit, and he in this case, he actually says, in the name of the Lord and by the power of the blood of Christ, depart. And as he does that, he sees that the spirit begins to become more filled with life, in the sense that it doesn't become human or doesn't become mortal, but it becomes like the witheringness goes away, and the spirit becomes happy. It's no longer sad. It's no longer moaning. How am I going to get to the next life? How? And at this point, the spirit smiles and withers away, not withers away, but like evaporates up into the atmosphere, and in the sense that, and gives William the sense that he has passed on to the next life with the help of William. So again, you have the help of the human being that uses his faith in God to help the spirit get on to the new world or get on to the next world. And it doesn't say, in this story, it doesn't say why why the ghost was there or who the ghost was, just that this was the random spirit that was in the form of a horse that turned into a human being. And then William conjures him and helps him move on to the next world. So, like I said, a positive story in the sense that the ghosts aren't there to scare you. The ghosts are there for help. And usually the people will help the ghosts. So that's William and the Shouting Spirit. Now, the next one, the number 2, is called the Restless Spirit. And it's this is about a guy named Robert Bodleby. Now, Robert Bodleby was a prominent citizen in this village not far from the Abbey. And unfortunately, he succumbed to a plague and perished. And he was buried in the churchyard of the local church, not at the Abbey, but at a local church nearby. Now, unfortunately, Robert's ghost, for some reason, was trapped and could not leave. So what would happen is every night he would rise from the grave and he would walk the village, moaning, crying, knocking on doors, knocking on windows, appearing in front of doors, appearing at windows, to the point that the villagers were so frightened. The children were frightened, the women were frightened, and no one really knew what to do about this spirit. That he was, and many knew him in life, because he was a prominent person in the village. So many knew him in life, but still were frightened by his spirit. So, what happens is one night, a group of men in the village decide we're going to get together and we're going to capture the spirit. How do you capture a spirit? Good question. It's not really clear from the story. What is said is that there seems to be something in there about salt being a way to capture a spirit, a circle of salt. So possibly what they did was they waited for the usual route that Robert's ghost went, and then they created a circle of salt where he went into it and then kind of was trapped. But it also talks about once he's there, once they counter him, they actually somehow grab hold of the spirit. I don't know how this is. So one of the men captures him, grabs hold of his spirit. And the man that grabs Robert Bodleby's ghost is another Robert Faxton. Robert Faxton grabs hold to him and tells his other 2 companions to run and get the local priest. So they do, and while Faxton is holding Robert's ghost in place, the ghost is moaning and trying to squirm away or trying to get away, but can't. Maybe it's because of the salt circle. Maybe I don't know. But the story describes him as holding this, like actually physically holding the spirit, which is bizarre to me. How maybe they thought they could hold the spirit. I don't know. So the priest arrives, and the priest again begins to conjure the spirit, and he says, "In the name of the Holy Trinity and power of Jesus." And when he does that, the spirit, Robert's spirit, begins to speak, and his speech is described as echoing, in the sense that his mouth is not moving, but it's coming out of his mouth. It's like an echo. His voice is like an echo, but his mouth is not moving. But he's speaking to them, and he begins to confess his sins. And the story goes that he was an accomplice to a murder, and unfortunately, he never confessed his sins before he died. And because of that, his spirit was trapped and could not move on to the next world. So the priest gives the spirit the opportunity to confess his sins to him, and he absolves him of all his sins. And the ghost begins to, actually confesses everything, and has his sins resolved, and quietly and contently goes back to the grave. They let him go. He goes back to the grave and quietly goes to rest and passes on. So again, you have the human beings, and now you have the church too, helping this ghost move on to the next life by absolving him of his sins of this murder that he was a part of, that he never confessed to in life. So interesting story there for the Roberts. Hello, Edwin. How are you? Good to see you, my friend. Bobo, nice to see you. Gina, how are you, Gina? Martha Fowler, great to see you. Okay, so that was number 2. Number 3 is called The Cursed Rector of Kirkby. And if you know what a rector was someone that was involved in the church and would do things for the church. It was kind of a secular position, I think, of the church. Now, this rector was named James Tankerley. And it said that he he passed away. They don't tell you how. The story doesn't say how he passed away, but he begins to haunt the countryside around the church where he was assigned, and he was buried. His body obviously was buried next to the church in the churchyard, and he begins to haunt the countryside. And it said that he had a mistress, which is interesting. He had a mistress, and he's haunting his mistress mostly to the point that there's a physical contact with the mistress, and he struck out one of her eyes, and that she was blinded in one of her eyes from encountering the spirit. So there's some type of conflict between him and his former mistress that he is coming back to over and over again in the afterlife. So the monks in that particular abbey get together and say, there's got to be a way to stop him from doing this, and we have to save the mistress, who knows what could happen to her. Yes, because in this case you have the spirit actually doing harm to a human being. We don't know why, but he is. So hello, Teresa, good to see you. So what do the priests do? The priests go and exhume his coffin. And they take the coffin and they put it on an ox cart, and they get a young boy and tell him, take this to a nearby Lake Gormire Lake, and throw it into the water, throw it into the lake, and let it sink to the bottom. And the theory was that when a restless spirit could not deal with water, so if you put the body in the water and it sunk to the bottom, the spirit would not be able to rise any further. So that's what they do. They take him, and the boy takes the oxen cart and the ox and goes and takes it to the river. And when he gets to the lake, I'm sorry, not the river, he goes into the river, and in fact, also the oxen almost drown because he goes straight into the river. But he's successful in getting the coffin and the body to go into the water. He pushes it over the side from the cart, and it is said that from then on, the ghost never rose again to torment the mistress or anyone else in the countryside. So in that case, you have a situation where, yes, it's a restless spirit. Yes, there's something going on between him and a targeted person, his former life, a mistress that he was close to, but they don't know why. The mistress couldn't tell them or wouldn't tell them, but they had to solve the problem. And how do they do that? By using the knowledge they knew about what spirits could do or couldn't do. And it was said that spirits could not go through water. So an interesting little tidbit on ghost busting, basically, in that. It's like ghost busting in the 1300s right there. All right, so that's number 3. Number 4 is, and this one to me is a pretty sad. This is really a sad one. So this is Cleveland Hill. This is the ghost of Cleveland Hill, and it's about a pilgrim who takes a trip from England to Spain. And a lot of times during this time period, people would take trips to Spain because Spain, from the north, they would go to Spain. Either you would go to Rome, or you would go. The cathedrals in Spain were major sites to go and visit and on a pilgrimage. So this individual goes to, and his name was Richard Roundtree. He takes a pilgrimage to Spain, and he wants to go see the Shrine of St. James, which is there. And he's traveling night after night. And when he actually gets into Spain one night, he's awoken by a lot of ruckus and commotion. He's camping on the side on the side of the road with, I guess, other travelers on a pilgrimage. And he's awoken in the middle of the night for a lot of ruckage and noise. And what he sees is an actual parade of spirits, a group of spirits basically coming up the road, wandering aimlessly, lamenting, very unhappy spirits just walking along, walking along. And he sees all types of men, women, children as the spirit, and most of the spirits just pass him by. They just go by him, and he's watching in awe of what he's seeing. But at the end of this train of spirits, there he sees the small. It's a baby. It's actually a baby spirit, and the baby spirit is kind of being dragged along inside something by another spirit. So he intervenes to say, what is this? What is this? And as he does so, he looks, he goes to the child to see, and the child is in a stocking of the time. And he conjures the spirit again. Remember, he calls on the Lord. He says prayers to try to speak with the spirit because he's concerned. He sees a child here, writhing, child spirit withering in this stocking, and it looks very, uncomfortable and painful. So even though this is a baby, the baby speaks. Now, whether the baby is speaking or just mentally communicating, the baby says to him, and this is why it's sad, I am your unborn child. I'm your son. I am your son. I am your unborn child. Now, I was born in your absence. So the story goes that his wife was pregnant when he left on the pilgrimage. The baby says, I was born. I died in childbirth. And my mother and the midwife that was there simply put me in a stocking and buried me without naming me, without blessing me, without giving me a baptism. So I'm stuck here to wander the earth forever. Well, this breaks his heart because this is his son. This would have been his son. So he immediately turns around and goes back to England. And when he gets to England, he finds that his wife is no longer pregnant. And he asks the wife what happened with the child. And the wife says, I simply had a miscarriage. It's happened in the past. I had a miscarriage. It wasn't much to it, and that's it. Now he knows this is a lie because he met the spirit, right? He knows it's a lie. So what he does is he holds a banquet, and he once again for the wife, and he invites the midwife to the banquet, and he holds a banquet in honor of his dead child. And at that banquet, he has a priest there, and he names the child. He gives the child the name James because he was going to the shrine of James. And with that, the baby's spirit is conjured again and actually is freed from its earthly trap, earthly prison, and can move on to the next world. And at this point, he reveals to the wife what he knew, that he learned that the baby was buried in a sack, was not given a priestly, or he wasn't given last rites, wasn't given a name. And at this point, he uses that to get his marriage annulled, because of the actions of the wife and the midwife, that he was able, and he divorces the wife, I guess, for lack of a better word, and he moves on with his life. So it's a sad story, but the good point is that the child moves on to the next world. So he's saved from that angle. The baby goes to saved. All right. That was number 4? Yeah, number 4. Number 5. This one is a short one. It's just, again, it's more so, and this is the other thing you see is these conjuring, when these spirits are conjured, they change form. So this is one about a ghost that appears as a horse. Again, like in the first story, the ghost appears as a horse, then turns into a hay bale, and then reveals himself to a man. And the man that he reveals himself to is a farmer, a peddler, a farmer who makes beans and peddle, and a peddler. And he's got his crop together. He's put it on his back, and he's carrying it quite a distance to get it to market to sell. So the ghost confronts him, and at this point, the traveler, is frightened, and the ghost just pleads with him. And at that point, again, the traveler conjures the ghost, saying prayers, and the ghost can now completely speak with him. So the ghost communicates to him that, please let me carry your beans for you. I have done terrible deeds in my life, and I must help someone if I'm ever to move on to the next world. So the peddler, or the farmer, his name was Rivillier, or Rivillier. It was a French name in England. I don't know, but he was from England, and he had a French name, and he agrees, and he says, he gives the ghost his beans, and the ghost carries the beans for him, and the two of them travel to the site where he will sell the beans. Now, and when they get to this town is surrounded by a moat of water. Remember, it's a medieval town. Now the ghost cannot proceed past the water. Again, this goes back to what we said about ghosts and water. It's something that they can't interact with. So the ghost, unfortunately, cannot pass it through, so he can't complete his task. So again, he's very upset, very, woe is me, I can't complete my task of helping you. Well, Rivillier takes the beans and says, never fear. He takes the beans himself. He goes across the water, gets the priest, and has a mass said for the spirit that helped him travel here and carry the beans. And with that, he goes out to the ghost. He tells the ghost what happened, and the ghost very happily dissolves and moves on to the next life. So another happy ending for the ghost. He helped someone in the living, and he gets rewarded by moving on. All right, so number 6. Number 6 is the ghost of Aten, Aten's ghost. And the story goes that Aten's ghost was a man. Aten was a man who was traveling for many long distances. And that's another thing you see. A lot of travelers, a lot of these ghostly encounters happen when folks are traveling in lonely areas, countrysides, alone by themselves. He's traveling, and this ghost follows him for 80 miles. So obviously this ghost needs him bad. He's following him for 80 miles and won't give up, to the point that Aten turns around and decides, I'm going to conjure this ghost, and I'm going to see what's going on. I can't have him following me any longer. He's always here. And with that, the ghost begins to speak, and the ghost says that he, in his lifetime, was excommunicated from the church. Before he died, he was excommunicated from the church because he stole 60 pence. Now, 60 pence was nothing at the time. So this was an unjust punishment, or unjust reaction to his crime. And because of that, he's looking for help from Aten. I think that's it. I think it's Aten. Aten's ghost. He's looking for help from Aten to get back into the church, or get something that will help him move on, because he's excommunicated. He can't get into heaven. So this is the interesting part of this, is that over those 80 miles, Aten ignores him. He ignores him until the point where the ghost gets to, this is where this happens. Before he even conjures the ghost actually picks him up to get his attention and throws him over a hedge, but catches him so he doesn't get hurt. Like, it somehow throws him over the hedge and then whips around to catch him in his arms to prevent him. In other words, to get his attention. And that's what got Aten to conjure him. And so what Aten does is Aten goes to a local church and makes a donation, and the priest comes and blesses Aten's ghost, absolving him of the excommunication, and that it was unjust, and he moves on to the next world. And so Aten's ghost is saved because of conjuring and because of his Aten's interaction on his behalf. All right, now the seventh and final story is called The Ghost of Snowball. Why it's called Snowball, I don't know. I think that was the name. That was the name of a tailor. So there was a tailor, clothing tailor, a tailor by the name of Snowball, and he was traveling between two villages. Again, a traveling person, and he comes upon a flock of ducks. And these ducks look strange to him. They don't look like normal ducks. They're very white. They're very, some of them are transparent. They're, obviously not normal ducks. So he goes up to them, and as he does that, they disappear and turn into a raven. And this raven is sitting there, and it opens its wings and flaps its wings. And when it does that, it turns into a dog, and the dog begins to bark until finally the dog, after so many barks, turns into a human form, and Snowball sees the human form of the ghost, and he begins to conjure the ghost again, calling upon Jesus' name. I want to speak with you. I want to help you. Whatever. He wants to find out why he's having this encounter. And the spirit goes on to tell him that he needs Snowball's help. Now, this spirit is a little bit, it's not the usual good spirit. This guy is a little rough, this spirit. And he must have done something pretty bad, because what he asks of Snowball is he asks Snowball to go and have 180 masses said in his name. Now think about that. That's a lot of masses. So even if it's one mass a day, right? That's a lot of masses that Snowball's going to have to get done to help out this spirit. So this spirit must have done some pretty bad stuff in his life. And but he doesn't tell him what the deeds that he did. He doesn't tell him what bad deeds they are. But he instead threatens him. He threatens Snowball, and he says, "If you don't do this, your flesh will rot and fall off of you, and your skin will dry up and peel away with the wind." So Snowball's a little concerned. He has a curse of a ghost now. So he originally was benevolent in the sense that he wants to help him, but now he has no choice to help him because there's consequences from the curse of the ghost. So what does Snowball do? Snowball goes to York, which is the closest, large city, or large, if you want, lack of a better word, city, York of the north of northern England. And he goes and he has these 180 masses done in the name of this ghost. So, and after it's done, he gets a paper from the priest that absolves the ghost based on this 180 days. So when he does this, he goes back to where he encountered the ghost, and he buries the proof, the proof into the ground, right? And at that point, the ghost appears again, and the ghost appears with him, and he says, the ghost thanks him, but also says, "Thank you for this, but you have to take it to where I'm staying, my body is resting. It has to be brought to my final resting place for me to move on. Now, but beware, because there are two other spirits where I rest, and they are not good. They're bad spirits. One of them is in the form of a bull. You'd see him as a form of a bull. And the other one would be in the form of a hunter, hunting animals. Weird things, right? Okay, but he tells him, this is how you're going to avoid these two evil spirits. You're going to come and you're going to draw a circle, and you're going to come with a cross that you get from the church, from the cathedral in York, and you're going to draw a circle around my grave, and then stand in there, and then you'll read off the absolution from the church, and then you will put it into the ground. The circle and the cross will protect you from the evil spirits, And with that, when that's accomplished, I will be freed and the curse will be lifted on you. So he does this, Snowball does this, and the two evil spirits cannot get to him because of this circle that he drew and the crucifix that he has. But in the end, the spirit moves on to the next world, and Snowball's free to go about his life without being haunted any longer. So those are the 7 stories that I wanted to tell you. As you can see, the pattern, it's usually the ghosts looking for help and getting help one way or the other. Most are out of the goodness of people's hearts. In this case, the last one, the guy was a little, a little bit belligerent. That ghost was that spirit was a little belligerent, that you better do it or else. So interesting stories from 1399, and all collected by monks, by this one monk, from the countryside, from the English countryside. So they all were things that people in the English countryside around North England, around this area, the Byland Abbey, believed. So, and it's the oldest that I could find on record of that time, where someone actually put down in writing ghost stories. So quite an interesting find, I think, the ghost stories of Byland Abbey. Byland Abbey. All right, so there you have it. There's your medieval ghost stories for this Friday the 13th, 2024. I hope you enjoyed them. I thought they were quite interesting, so I hope you did too. And I think Lenny likes them too. All right. So I don't know if I missed anyone coming into the chat. I hope not. Well, thank you, Surviving. Thank you, Joe Town. I appreciate it. I hope you liked them. Let's see. Anyone? I don't know if I missed anyone else. Thank you, Bobo. Appreciate it. Gerard, thank you. Lenny thinks everything is a joke. He does. He's look at the smile on his face. What was funny? Nothing funny about that stuff. The guys were, these spirits were trapped. Someone had to help them, right? They're not like you. They're not a free spirit like you. He's not trapped. He's here because he wants to be. All right. So, paranormal videos. So let's go into these 3 videos that I have. Disclaimer as usual. I try to find things that are interesting. I don't do sound videos because anybody can make a sound in the background. I don't believe any of them. Some of them might be true. I don't know, but they're too easy to fake. And I try to weed out all of the obvious fakes because there's tons of them on the internet. So it's pretty hard to find these that are questionable. And when we look at them, we try to debunk them first. We try to figure out if there's reasonable explanations for them, what those reasonable explanations might be, before we say this could be an actual capture of a ghost or what have you. So let's get into it and see what you guys think. All right, here we go. All right. Let's see. Okay, here is, all right, here they are. Good. Excellent. Excellent. All right. Share my screen. All right. Now, this first one is from Mexico. And the setting is that it's the backyard of like a house or an apartment complex where people hang out their laundry to dry. So there's a bunch of laundry that's just been washed and it's hung out on a clothesline in the wind to dry. And this is what they see. Now, watch this. Look at this. This is a shirt that's hanging here. And watch what's going on in the middle here. And there's nothing underneath it, right? But something, hands or what have you, are pushing up and down the shirt. So, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? There's nobody there. Like, there's nobody underneath here. Nobody's standing here. And the wind is blowing, right? So I don't think there's any type of digital enhancement or anything like that going on here. The only thing I can think of is it possible that there is a hole in the wall behind it and that somebody is sticking on a as a pole through there, like sticking something with on a pole and making and rubbing it up and down. So I don't know. I mean, let's put it this way. It, the only thing I can think of here is that it's either staged or it's real because there's no reasonable explanation for this. Like there's no natural explanation for what we're seeing here. It's either staged or it's real. So it could be that there's a pole sticking out from behind that wall. Someone's on the other side of that wall sticking a pole out and rubbing it up and down on that. I'll play it for you again just to take another look real quick. So, it could be like two poles, right? There's two of them, two things that look like hands there. It could be somebody shooting out two poles from behind that wall, a hole in the wall. I don't know. So I don't know. I think that's probably it. I need to know when you get a chance. I'm sorry. What are you asking, Baywatcher? I'm sorry. What do you need to know? I don't see what you need to know. What the hell? What is going on here? I can't get my cursor over here. Oh, here we go. All right. I can even box his ear. I don't understand. I don't get it. Baywatcher, I don't know what you're asking me. I don't see it. If it's in here, I apologize. I don't see it. Yeah, it's not a swarm of insects, Tony. Were you in Boardwalk Empire? Me in Boardwalk Empire? No, I was not in Boardwalk Empire. No, no. No, I was not in Boardwalk Empire. Um yeah, he's laughing. He's laughing. Lenny's laughing. So I don't know. I'm gonna say this is too much like a staged event. That's what I'm gonna say here. I'm gonna say this is staged, and you guys can make your own the choice here. But I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say this is not real. I'm saying this is staged. All right. Lenny thought it was staged too. So I think staged wins the story. Okay. No, I wasn't in Gerard. I wasn't in Goodfellas either. I wasn't in any movies. Let's see here. All right, let's go on to our next clip real quick. I'm sure Slim is going on shortly anyway. Sliminy will be on at 10 o'clock. Usually he is. Hey, Zelda, how are you? Yeah, Zelda agrees with me that it's probably staged. Okay. All right, let's go on to the next one. All right. Share screen. All right. Now this one is a truck driver. No, a motorcycler, I think. I think it's somebody on a motorcycle driving at night and sees something that you'll see come dashing in front of him from the left. And then it's gone. So let's watch that again. A person comes out of nowhere. Let's see where. Here it comes. Look at this. Now watch. Gone. And the person on the motorcycle turns to try to see what happened to the person. And there's nothing there. There's nothing there. Let's play that again. Let's go back and let's do it in slow motion. Let's see if we could do it in slow motion, see if that makes any difference. So here's the person walking across the street, right? So it just looks like a regular person, right? But walking across the street, right? All right. And the person kind of vaporizes here. Look at this. Like turns into like a mist. Right? Look at that. Gone. It's so weird. Like it looks like it's going to definitely be a collision here, right? And nothing. And he looks back and there's nothing. So, it's a full person right here. You can see clearly. Person is wearing like yellow pants, I guess, right? And then here's where it evaporates, turns into vapor, and it's gone. I don't know. Yeah, it vaporizes, right, Tony? It vaporizes. Little Englander, good to see you. Thank you for joining. So I don't know about this one. I don't know, I don't know. I do not know about this one. Now, it could be maybe it's a camera glitch that the person is not, the person's still there and the camera just, because he turned his head, and maybe maybe he didn't hit the person at all. Maybe the person got past him, right? And so he turns to the left thinking he hits the guy. He never hit the person at all. That could be it too. So I don't know. This one's up in the air too. I don't know what this one is. Yes, Tony, right. Cargo shorts and a hoodie. Yep. Anyway, so that's what it is. That's what that one is. All right, let's get rid of that. We don't want where's my stop share button? Stop share. There we go. All right. And one more, also a road one, also one from the road. This is a truck driver, has a dash cam. And let's see what this guy has for us. All right, let's go. Here we go. All right. Truck driver at night, blah, blah, blah. Yep, to the right. Now, it was to the right. Now, we're going to go back to the right. There you go. Again, now I'm going to slow it down so you can take a better look at it. To the right. Look at this right here. Now, I don't know. It could be a regular person, right? It could be just a regular person there, and he's going by so fast that it's a blur. It's just a strange place for a crazy, the person would have to be crazy to be crossing the road there. All right, let's go. Wait a minute. What am I doing here? I want to slow this down myself to the point where, see if we can see anything. See if we can make this out. Right, you first see it. Now it first comes into view over here, right? This far back. I could see it still there, right? That truck passes. Now it's coming up. It's coming. It's standing under an underpass, right? You have a road above it. The person is wearing some type of white gown or what have you. It's a strange place to be crossing the road, but anyway. And then here, it flies by, right? He flies by, and it goes out of view. So I don't know. This could just be a regular person, and the speed at which the truck driver is driving is blurring the film. I just hope that person didn't get hit by anyone. So I don't know. I mean, anything's possible, right? But I mean, it's not doing anything supernatural, though, right? It's not vaporizing. It's not appearing out of nowhere. It's not disappearing out of nowhere. You see it blending away as you drive past it, but that would happen with anything. So anyway, I'm thinking this is just a regular woman or girl or something crossing the road at a dumb place. Hopefully they didn't get hit by a car. And this truck driver, knowing that truck drivers drive late at night, they could possibly be, tired and like, what the hell was that type of thing, right? You're driving for hours on hours, and then you see this, and then what was that, So this, I don't really give this much supernatural type of stuff. No, not much activity here that I can't explain. So I think we have one faked one, and I think two of them that are just I don't know, what am I doing? Let me get rid of this. Yeah, two of them that are just the camera, the blurring of the camera from the speed at which things are going. So I think no real ghosts in these videos. That first one I'm going with being faked, being staged, and those two I think are just blurs. That, and I'm not even accusing those people of trying to pull a fake one. I think that the dash cam is the dash cam, and they're looking at it and they're saying, I can't explain this. And if you're a truck driver driving late at night and you're tired to begin with, and something shoots by you, you're going to say, what the hell was that? So I don't know. But that first one I think was just staged, and I hate that. I try to avoid those. The ones that I avoid are really obviously staged. I mean, really, really bad. And like where you see like a monster looking face or like a ghost faced, so those type of things. And anyone with any common sense would say, no, it's not going to be. Look, it's not going to be a. If it's a real spirit, it's not going to look like a monster. It's not going to look like a studio or a monster movie. It's not going to look like that. You know what I mean? So when it looks like that, I already assume that it's fake, and I don't even bother with it. So, but these are the only three I could find this week. So hopefully next week we'll have some better ones to delve into and try to, debunk or wonder about, right? So that's that. So anyway, that's the story for this evening. Those are the stories, the medieval stories, and then just a little bit of paranormal videos for you to take a look at and make your own decisions, as always. You heard my opinions, you make yours, right? So on behalf of Lenny, Victor back there is very quiet. Victor's very quiet back there. He's being a good dog. And me, ALV. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for spending an hour with me on this Friday the 13th. This was not a Friday the 13th episode like some people thought it might be. I didn't bill it as that because that's not what it was. I did a Friday the 13th episode last time in October when it was Friday the 13th. So, but this is just, we're into Christmas spirit. And I was thinking historical. I was thinking medieval historical because that's quite interesting to me. Dindo's in a deep sleep and dreaming. Yeah, you're welcome, Tony. Appreciate your support and hanging out with me. Zelda, thank you for coming by. New Little Englander, I think, is a new guy, a new person. Thank you for stopping by. I don't think I've seen you before, so thank you for stopping by. I think there was someone else here that was new too. Earlier on. And of course, my usual loyal crowd who I love you guys. So thank you for stopping in and spending time with me. And I will hopefully see you next week, if the fates allow, as the song goes, if the fates allow. So have a wonderful night, everyone. And God bless as always. And like I say, stay scared as we blow out. Watch Slim if next. Slim's on. I'm sure if you have nothing to do, check him out. He's always a fun show to watch on a late night on a Friday. Slimity Crickets usually does songs, music. So it's a fun little time if you're bored. And Baywatcher, take offense at what? What would I take offense at? Did you think I look like an actor? I don't care. It doesn't offend me. I don't really care. Yes, hit the like button if you can. Hit the like button or leave a comment afterwards. Whatever you want to do. That stuff is awesome. It really helps. So, Deborah said, you saw the one with the security guard talking. Yes, I did see that one. Yes. Yep. It looks, yeah, I mean, that looked creepy, Deborah. The reason I wouldn't go over that one is because that's too easy to stage, right? All you have to do, if the security guard is in on it with the guy behind the camera, it's easy. Okay, go pretend that you're talking to somebody, So there's no way to like really prove that either one way or the other. So that's why I don't really show those. But yeah, it's creepy. If you're there watching it and you're thinking about it, you get chills from it. I get it. So, well, thank you, Little Englander. I appreciate that. Thank you, Susan. Yeah, I mean, look, some of them are probably going to be staged. That's the way it is. Some of them are staged, and some of them, we're just hoping that one's real every now and then. I mean, that's what I'm doing. I'm hoping to find one that's real to say, wow, look at this. We don't have an explanation. And I think we had a couple of those over the weeks. We had a couple of those where we really couldn't, they were kind of convincing. I think that one with the photo of the woman in the graveyard, that was kind of that, and I forget when that was. It was taken years and years ago. It was before digital cameras, and the actual photo was analyzed to make sure it wasn't played with, or it wasn't doctored, and they said that it wasn't. So that one was kind of chilling to me, because the woman, it looked like it clearly was a woman, and it clearly was dressed like it was in the 1800s, and in that cemetery, and so who knows? We keep looking, we keep checking, and see what we have, see what we can find. We look for it, and in the meantime, we have the stories, right? Because the stories are fun. So stay scared, as I always say, because being scared is fun. And until next time, I say God bless you all. Thank you as always. Say goodnight, Lenny, and we'll blow out our candles. Have a wonderful week. Thank you for joining.